Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to my channel for another Hot Toys 1/6 scale Star Wars Revenge of the Sith figure unboxing and review. Today, we're taking a look, finally, at General Grievous. Long have I waited to say those words, but he's here now. I got mine at a discount from Pop Collectibles. I've popped a link to their site in the description, along with the discount code Justin's Collection, for 5% off your order if you decide to buy from them. As always, do your own research, make sure you're comfortable before buying. If you're heading down to the description, why not hit that subscribe, bell notification icon, and join button, so you're notified as soon as brand new Star Wars content goes live. Ah yes, General Grievous's box. It's, shorter than I expected. I'm obviously joking. This is a ginormous box for what I can only imagine is a pretty sizable release, but we will soon find out. As for the box art, up front, an image of the figure himself, metallic silver foil Star Wars logo, then a glossy wraparound banner with an image of Obi-Wan's Jedi Interceptor on it, behind another shot of General Grievous. This video is brought to you by JustinsCollection.shop, the home of the figure first aid kit, as well as other accessories to help your collection be the best it can be. The first aid kit contains multiple tools to help you with maintenance, styling rooted hair, and much more. We also sell crotch grabbers, soft rubber tips to prevent damage, and they're compatible with most modern Hot Toys base molds. Acrylic risers come in multi-packs, they're optically clear, thick and sturdy, and stackable. Check out the link to JustinsCollection.shop in the description. On the side of the box, Hot Toys, quit teasing us with this Electro staff. You need to give us some Magna Guards to pose up behind General Grievous. Come on, just make it happen. Around the back, well, this is exciting, isn't it? Warnings, legal information, their store locations, and a barcode on the wraparound banner. On the other side of the box, this is either Utapau or Mustafar, but there's another Jedi Interceptor. And we've got Star Wars etched into the foam block that houses General Grievous. They're calling this a diecast release, but the box isn't overly heavy. It's sizable, but it doesn't weigh a ton, so I'm curious to find out how much diecast is actually in General Grievous. So this isn't our first rodeo with General Grievous in 1/6 scale, nor our second. Prior to Hot Toys announcing their version of Grievous, Sideshow gave us 2 attempts at him in this scale. The first one was actually quite good for when it came out, but the second was so terrible. It was a floppy mess. It couldn't stand for shit without the display base, and the arms were so loose they had to send out replacements. I got replacements for my 2.0 Sideshow General Grievous. I'm hoping that Hot Toys have learned from Sideshow and they've not made any of the same mistakes. First, in-hand impressions, solid as, not floppy at all, and there is the diecast. He's surprisingly hefty. I don't know why the box wasn't heavy, but General Grievous himself is. The feet feel cold to the touch, and these bits at the shoulders, I'm sure there's more diecast for us to discover. What we're going to do now is get all of his accessories laid out in the light box and take a closer look at everything he comes with. Well, almost everything he comes with. I couldn't fit the cape in frame given the size of it combined with everything else that's going on. We'll look at it separately in a second. Starting off with the display base first, they've gone with the quarter scale base mold for General Grievous. They've also used this for Venom and other larger figures. Perfect choice for him given the size of the piece and the size of his feet. He needed a big flat platform base like this. The slash effects, they're slightly raised on the surface. I'm not sure if you can tell on camera, but in person you can feel them. The entire top platform is textured and a little bit grippy. I like this, but I also wouldn't have minded a switch out decal. They've done this before without the slash effects, just in case you don't end up going with the forearm pose in your display. Around the front, Star Wars and General Grievous for the nameplate. Then up top, a height adjustable, very wide scoop crotch grabber. Okay, now we can talk about the cape. This is very important to the look of General Grievous. They almost nailed it. The texture of the material looks great. There's the logo screen printed on the back. clasp up top, fully detailed, well painted. Then it's wired for multiple sections. We've got the pockets for the lightsaber hilts, pattern on the inside of it. So what's the problem, Justin? I hear you ask. It's split at the bottom for some unknown reason. And the press stud closure up top is awful. We'll talk about this again later, but trying to close this when you're popping it on General Grievous, I am so nervous that I'm going to snap that press stud. When it comes to General Grievous, the number one display option for me is the forearm pose, or even something with a blaster. The Electro Staff isn't my go-to, but it might become that, because Hot Toys went to town with the detail here. The tips, translucent plastic with the greebly detail work on the inside, and the way it's all been painted with a mix of matte grey and shiny silver and gold, so good to look at. And we've got the removable translucent purple plastic lightning effects that are different from top to bottom. Plus the sculpt work for the middle section, the rib bits and pieces. There's a black wash in the crevices, but it is not too heavy-handed or overdone. Hot Toys, why did you give us the coins? I couldn't care less about this. Yes, a couple of figures now have come with coins, but what are you meant to do with it? Like, there's no stand for it. We're meant to just chuck it on the base randomly? I don't think so. At least give us a stand if you're giving us a diecast coin. It looks fine. We've got Grievous up front, then Star Wars on the back. But there's also no consistency with these. Sometimes we get them, sometimes we don't. If you're wondering why my coin is red and yours is gold, just depends on the region where you purchase your Grievous from. Hong Kong gets red coins, Sideshow gets the gold ones. When it comes to Grievous's faceplates, we get two options just like the exclusive version of the Sideshow General Grievous. But with the Hot Toys one, you get the battle damage faceplate even with the standard. The only special edition bonus is that stupid coin. I'm leaning towards the cleaner look, but there is still some battle damage on this one. How does it compare to the Sideshow faceplate? Sideshow's one is larger, but the detail, in my opinion, doesn't look quite as good except for the scratches. They're a bit too heavy-handed on the Hot Toys faceplate. To go along with the battle damage look, we get some asymmetrically sculpted sliced off forearms, different from left to right. There's a lot of speckling on the bone-colored sections, and some orange paint on the bottom to make it look like they've been freshly cut. Then we've got these versions that you can pop on in case you want to make it look like General Grievous has detached the broken bits of his arms. I'll show you how all this works a little bit later, don't worry. Is this the first time we've received General Grievous's uncivilized blaster in 1/6 scale? I think it is, yeah? Let me know down in the comments unless I'm misremembering. Sideshow gave us this, but now we get it with the Hot Toys version of Grievous. Sculpt work all the way around, no complaints from me, it's crispy as. And the way it's been painted, gunmetal for the base color, it's slightly reflective and shiny, and a silver dry brush over the top. Then, 4 different shiny metallic silver painted with some gold and red accents, black washes, lightsaber hilts. They're compatible with all of the blades, the blue ones and the green ones. You can use them interchangeably, including the swooshing blade effects. Technically speaking, they're not fully accurate. At least, not for all of the appearances of General Grievous. Towards the start of the movie, maybe. But when he was fighting Obi-Wan, if you look very closely, he had Obi-Wan's and Anakin's lightsaber hilts with green blades in them. The people who did the CGI, they goofed a little bit, they reused assets, and that's why that ended up happening. Does it bother me that the hilts aren't accurate to the scene that the display base is trying to recreate? Yes. Should they have chucked in Anakin and Obi-Wan hilts? Yes. But I'm also not mad at the array of hilts they've given us. We get the same 4 that you just saw, but this time with cables sticking out of them for the light-up effect. Oh, this is pure laziness. They didn't even change the printing on the junction box. General Grievous is not DX44/45. He's an MMS release. They couldn't even be bothered to print his MMS number on this junction box. Ridiculous. There's no included USB-C cable, and this can't connect to Grievous. It needs to clip onto the stand, so if you've got plans to use the light-up effect, but not the display base. Think again, because this needs to be connected to Grievous's base. The finish on these lightsaber blades is abysmal. They were frosting them for a while. They were getting more and more saturated. They've gone back to the pale ones and glossy translucent plastic. I doubt these are going to look good in the LED light-up hilts. And then only 2 swooshing effects. Where are the rest of them? Why do we not get 4 of these? I sound like I'm complaining a lot, but 4 lightsaber hilts surely means 4 of the effects. But no, only 2 of them. A very pale blue one, with a lighter trailing edge and a more saturated leading edge. The same thing can be said for the green one, but I will not be using these because I still think they don't make sense. If you grab one of the hilts, they're an equal triangular fan all the way down, where in my opinion, they should look like that. A proper leading and proper trailing edge. But they surprised me with the hands. They could have said, stuff y'all, we're just giving you a set of splitting hands with the articulated fingers, figure it out. But they didn't. We get these, they're fixed, locked together, you can't split these, but we get the articulated fingers. Multiple joints for each and every single one of them. Ball joints at the base, so we still get enough articulation to get expressive with them for dynamic posing. Whereas these, same exact joints for all of the fingers, but you can split them. So if you don't care about having the hands locked together permanently, you could always just leave the splitting ones on him all the time if you wanted. Or these, the last set, they can still split, but they don't have articulated fingers. They're pre-posed to hold the lightsaber blades, so you don't have to worry about the fingers opening up and the hilts constantly falling out of his hands. Ball joints at the base of them, just like the other options. What we're going to do now is get General Grievous himself out here. Standing straight up and down in the light box, no crazy poses or accessories or anything like that. Well, it's not entirely true. I have installed the cape and put the lightsabers in the pockets just to complete the look. With him standing here, rotating around in front of me, pinch me. Am I dreaming? Because this is so much better than I was expecting it was going to be. The size, the heft, the detail, the engineering, all of it blowing me away. He is not perfect. Couple of things for us to discuss. You may even be able to spot them from a distance. But at this very moment, if you were to ask me if this figure was worth the pickup, if you're a prequels fan, if you're a Grievous fan, abso-freaking-lutely, no question, you need to add this to your collection. Up close and personal, kicking things off with General Grievous's head sculpt and the first of the 2 faceplates, what's meant to be the non-battle damaged one. We'll try out the battle damaged faceplate in a second. Emphasis on meant to be, because it looks pretty battle damaged. Yeah, with the scratches. Hot Toys, you are a bold one. You've almost ruined a perfect figure with your heavy-handed battle damage paint apps. Why the black wash in the scratches? Why the orange shading? It comes across as though Obi-Wan has just sliced him across the face, and that is not how he looked in the movie. This stuff, they needed to dial it back. I like everything else. The speckling, the subtle translucency to the white, the ivory sections to make them look like bone, the articulated ears, for crying out loud, moving eyes, the breathing apparatus bits that are separate to the rest of the sculpt work for the faceplate, and the grills for the mouth, not to mention all of the hoses and cabling that are rubbery plastic and you can move all of it around. I can't get past the scratches. So on my copy of General Grievous, I might just display him with the battle damage faceplate on to make this make sense. Like the look of it, the shape, the size of it, everything is so on point. It's only those paint apps. I could be the only one that cares about that. Let me know how you feel about the scratches in the comments. I think Sideshow did it better. They captured that old, worn marble look with the soft veining and the lighter scratches better with their faceplate. That's the only thing that I reckon is superior about the Sideshow release. And no, I promise I'm not being overly dramatic. If you've got Sideshow's General Grievous, you know what I'm talking about. He really does not have much going for him. Removing the Hot Toys Grievous faceplate held in place with 2 magnets, then you can access the moving eyes. They're not really ball joints, they've got these retaining pegs up top, just so that they don't get out of alignment. I'm curious to see what he looks like with some side eyes, so let's pop this back on the body and discuss. Don't get me wrong, I like the fact we've got moving eyes, but they don't look very movie accurate. The whites, they're too prominent, the pupils and irises aren't big enough. I've seen someone do a repaint in a brighter greenish yellow color, and that looks so freaking good. I'm considering either trying to repaint them myself, or reaching out to the person who did theirs to see if they do mine. Now the battle damage faceplate. The scratches make way more sense here, but you see the bottom ones? They've ditched the black wash. This is how this one should have looked. It almost tells me that someone at the factory goofed and gave the painting team the wrong guide, and they painted this one to look battle damaged and this one to look cleaner. That's why there's no black wash in the scratches. If there was a way to remove that black wash, this faceplate would look way more movie accurate. And the sculpt work for the battle damage or the chewed up bits on one side, it's not just paint. This is genuinely a different sculpt for this faceplate, and they've added more paint to it with the soot wash and some purple/red shading over that one eye. For the rest of this segment, let's go back to the clean faceplate though. Enough about the head sculpt and all of this beautiful detail work underneath it. The cape. It was a pain in the ass to install. That press stud is scary, it's fragile feeling, and once you lock it in, it really does not want to come apart, so take your time with it. Also, the red material on the inside. My Sideshow Grievous is stained from the red inside his cape. This white is begging for dye transfer. It could be a non-issue with Hot Toys Grievous. They might have eliminated that problem entirely. Not willing to take the risk. So for my Grievous, I will not be displaying him with the cape as cool as this looks. At least the wires help you shape it over his shoulders and have it running down his back properly, or you can get dynamic with it. The pockets, they're big enough to accommodate the lightsabers he comes with. There's 4 in total, or if you've got some spare Obi-Wan and Anakin hilts, you could always pop those in there. But now this just makes me want to display him with the cape on, having those hilts out, because as we all know, they make a fine addition to Grievous's collection. Let's remove the cape and discuss the rest of General Grievous. Oh my, there is a lot going on. Many moving parts and pieces. So many hoses and cables and linkages and joints that are integrated into the sculpt work. This design was so busy, almost maybe even ahead of its time for back in the day. No wonder it took Hot Toys so long to translate this into 1/6 scale, because they wanted to do it right. And except the paint on the faceplate and that stupid press stud on the cape, maybe the staging issue, they were firing on all cylinders when they designed this. Up front, you can open the chest panels, flare these pieces out, and you can see the fully sculpted, painted, and detailed organs inside the translucent green plastic organ sac. Sideshow's General Grievous, this stuff was always flared out. If you wanted to close it up, you were shit out of luck, you couldn't do it. But with Hot Toys, you can get these pieces sitting a lot closer together, and that is the look that I personally prefer. Even around the back, this armor plate moves. That hose, there's more of it inside the organ sac. As you move the head sculpt forward and back, it reveals itself, and there's a bunch more stuff to look at underneath it. The weathering. Yes, it's heavy, but I don't mind it on his body. On the head sculpt, not so much. These gashes, the brown speckling, the black/bluish grey speckling, it all comes together to add so much grit, texture, and detail to the surface of Grievous's armor plates. These arms, I could dedicate a whole segment to them on their own because of how impressive the engineering is. You can just split them. Like, it's so easy. They're individually articulated, or you can combine them back together. There's a peg up there, there's pegs on the arms, and you don't have to worry about these pieces because they're soft PVC plastic. If they get caught when you're bending the elbow joint, they will not snap off. They were brittle ABS plastic with Sideshow's Grievous, and they always made me nervous when I was articulating him. So you don't need to switch out anything, and the joints are so buttery smooth and solid. Nothing feels loose or floppy. Everything is so rigid and sturdy. I don't think this guy is going to become a floppy mess over time either, just because of the type of joints that Hot Toys have used. Switching out these arms, it's only the bottom ones that can accept the battle damage pieces. You slide them off the metal guiding pins, then you can install the cut-off versions. Depending on the look you're going for, you can either install the freshly cut off hand forearms with the orange paint on the end of them as though Obi-Wan has literally just sliced them off, or these, as though Grievous has ditched all of the extra bits and pieces that are now no longer functional thanks to Obi-Wan Kenobi, and you can combine the arms back together. Not the easiest thing to do on camera, mind you, but clipping everything in, now you can have the combined arm look, except minus the lower half. Back to the combined arms, both blades, the articulated finger hands plugged together now. So many options. Hot Toys Grievous, much more versatile than the Sideshow one, yet a lot sturdier and the engineering vastly superior. And there is nothing that speaks to the engineering more than the legs. We haven't yet discussed the diecast content. This, all diecast. The inner knee joint, that feels like diecast. All of this metal, the feet as well. There's diecast for the arm pistons up here at the shoulders. On the inside of the body, I think there's some metal. The weight for Grievous is substantial. And the sturdiness, thanks to all of that metal, he feels like an absolute unit. Nothing comes across fragile for the bulk of all of his big pieces. Yes, some of the smaller spindly bits of plastic potentially, but I don't feel like the joints are going to give you any problems. I like the mix of finishes. The shinier gunmetal, this flat, dry looking and feeling metallic. Then there's the brighter silver with the black washes, this darker metallic silver. So many different shades and finishes of paint going on. Then the weathering, there's that speckling effect and a black soot effect, then more of that up here. Nothing is as heavily weathered as the white armor sections, but that makes sense in context for Grievous. On the battlefield, white ivory colored armor is going to show more wear and tear than darker gunmetal sections. Look at these feet. He comes across as though he would never stand, but he stands so easily thanks to the articulation and the joints they've gone with. There's some ugliness underneath them with the visible screws. If that had to happen to make this figure be able to stand, I am totally fine with it. Holy cable management, General Grievous. These cables, how are you supposed to hide them? You can maybe run them along his arms using cable ties or something. So much effort for an effect that I promise you is not worth it. These baselit hilts, they do not get bright enough. Turning on the LEDs, this is what they look like. And I will turn off the studio lights to show you them in darkness as well, but the effect is mediocre at best, I think, anyway. Look, it is better, but who's displaying Grievous like this in complete darkness just so that the lightsaber blades look serviceable? I would suggest some custom ones by Ironworks. Their lightsaber blades, they look practically real versus the ones that Hot Toys give us. I'm sorry if it sounds like I'm being harsh on certain things, even overly so, but when you wait so long for a General Grievous from Hot Toys, you expect perfection. This is very close. So close, in fact, that I want another one of these. Not exactly the same as this, but imagine if Hot Toys repainted this Grievous mold like what Hasbro did with their Black Series one for the 2003 2D animated Clone Wars anniversary. In those colors, this mold would look so freaking good. So Hot Toys, if you want to do that as some kind of convention exclusive, I would be down. For a quick side-by-side comparison, Hot Toys Grievous on the left, Sideshow Grievous on the right. I am just as surprised as I'm sure y'all are that Sideshow Grievous is standing for this shot. But he is. He's wearing his cloak as a point of differentiation between the two, and yeah, the Hot Toys one destroys Sideshow General Grievous. The proportions, the paint applications, the crispness of the detail, the engineering, the sculpt work, everything at every level, except for the scratches on the faceplate. That's the only little hang-up with Hot Toys Grievous. Hello there. General Kenobi is quite a lot shorter than General Grievous. You can hunch Grievous forward to give him his almost signature look. In the movie, he was hunched forward a lot, but when he fought Obi-Wan, he did stand upright like this, so I thought I'd show you what he looks like standing straight up and down next to Obi-Wan. Going over articulation, I am genuinely so excited for this segment because I want to find out just how over-engineered this guy is, in the best way possible, of course. Starting off with his head sculpt, there's a joint at the base of this sort of neck assembly, but we'll come back to that. The head itself extends up for more range if you need it, looking forward to there, looking up to there for the spider pose, swivel on a ball joint, and some pivot side to side. The entire neck assembly, though, can move forward, and when you do that, the tube that extends inside the organ sac, it's longer than it looks. It extends out as you bring this piece forward. Then the arms, they're on a ball joint connected to the body and a series of hinges. Don't forget they can split, so you have to factor that into moving them around. Going up to there, pretty much all the way up, no problem. The shoulder pads are articulated as well. Forward and back on that ball joint, which acts as a butterfly that also hinges up and down. There is some swivel for the arms, but most of it is going to once again come from the ball joint at the shoulder. That does a lot of heavy lifting. Single bend for the elbows on metal pistons, and can you see that? How they slot into the forearms as you actuate those joints. For the hands, they're on two different ball joints. These are the splitting ones, and we've got articulated fingers. There's no ab crunch or articulation in the torso for forward and back range because of everything that moves around and the translucent organ sac, but we get swivel at the waist. If you'd like to hunch Grievous forward, you can accomplish that by using the leg joints and the lower neck articulation. Dropping the legs down at the hips to there on multiple clicks on ball joints at the hips, going pretty much all the way forward, being mindful of that collision right there. Going out to there, then the hip joint will give you a close enough approximation of thigh swivel. The knee joints are so heavy duty as they need to be given the size of this guy. The upper knee joints are on ratchets, the lower ones as well, and look at the range you can get out of them. And the ankle joints, the clickiness, the sturdiness, plus accessible screws. If you find those joints are getting loose over time, you can tighten them right up. Then there's swivel, and for the feet themselves, they're on ball joints, good for forward and back, rotation, and some ankle tilt, but most of that is going to come from the upper joint. Moving on to the 3 cool and 3 annoying things. The first annoying thing is, how many lightsabers does Grievous have again? Oh, that's right, 4 of them. So why do we only have 2 swooshing lightsaber blade effects? Hot Toys, I get it. For the forearm pose, he's only swinging 2 of them, but still, if you are giving us 4 lightsabers, chuck 2 extra swooshing blade effects in the box so we can have effects on every single one of the sabers. The second annoying thing is so minor, it doesn't affect anything, really. It's the printing on the junction box. I'm struggling to find annoying things with Grievous, so this is what I ended up with. I get there's reuse. That's fine, even for electronics, but don't print DX44/45 on a box for Grievous because he isn't DX44/45. That is Darth Vader. This pure laziness. They could have at least printed Grievous's MMS number on his junction box. The third annoying thing is the clasp for his cape is awful. It's a little plastic press stud, so hard to get plugged in, and because it's plastic, it's prone to breaking. This should have been a metal press stud, or they could have gone with magnets. The first cool thing is we get the battle-damaged faceplate. This was an exclusive accessory with the Sideshow version of Grievous, but with the Hot Toys one, you get the standard, you still get the battle-damaged faceplate. The second cool thing is the arm-splitting gimmick. You don't have to switch out the arms, you just split them. Like, it's so easy. And they work in terms of articulation, both combined and split, without having to change or modify any of the parts and pieces already attached to the body. This, brilliant engineering. The third cool thing is just how solid he is. I could not do this with the Sideshow version of General Grievous without him falling apart, crumbling in my hands because of the looseness of the joints. Hot Toys, they fully understood the assignment and they made one of their best, most well-engineered figures to date with this. Wrapping up on one of Hot Toys' best releases ever. It's not just detail, it's not just accessories, it's not just engineering, it's not just diecast, it's all of it. It all comes together for this perfect symphony of a Grievous. How did they keep us waiting so long when they could give us this? It is a masterclass in how you make something that is mechanically complex and visually complex into a 1/6 scale figure, and you do it and make it look effortless. Everything just works. There's not a single thing here that has me feeling nervous that the engineering isn't going to hold up over time. But then again, Sideshow's Grievous, it was floppy right out of the box. They didn't even try and hide the lack of engineering with that one. This does not have the same issues as Sideshow Grievous. If you've got that piece, sell it and get this immediately. You will not regret it. This feels like one of those landmark figures that you get maybe once every 10 years. It's so impressive and it's so monumental that Hot Toys, they shy away from making stuff like this because of the complexity. But they've done it, and they have delivered the goods with their Grievous. Well worth the wait. In fact, it surpassed almost all of my expectations. Now, I got mine at a discount from Pop Collectibles. I've popped a link to their site in the description, along with the discount code Justin's Collection, for 5% off your order if you decide to buy from them. As always, do your own research, make sure you're comfortable before buying. If you're heading down to the description, why not hit that subscribe, bell notification icon, and join button if you like the sound of seeing your name in the end credits of my reviews. Like, comment, and subscribe. We'll catch you in the next video.